Alright, next part here, level 2 of the print function. And here we're going to be introduced to what we call escape characters. So looking at escape characters, so we have escape characters are going to be basically special characters that proceed with a backslash, appearing inside a string. So when the coding contains the escape characters, they're going to be treated as special commands. Okay, so let's take a look in more detail what that actually means. So these are going to be our different escape characters. So if we take a look at these elements here, so we have /n for a new line, and we'll give you some examples as we go through. Horizontal tab, and here is basically, look at this, this is an important one. Check this out. We have here a slash with a single thing, quote there, prints out the quotation mark. And then same thing over here, we have a double quotation mark and then also a way to print out the backslashes. Alright, so looking back at our code, we have this issue right here. And what we're going to do is we basically put a backslash there. You notice that something magical happened. So let's take a look. As of right now, you see that this is a certain color and this is a certain color. And then when we basically put the backslash on there, look, this changes to what it's supposed to be, and this basically matches up to what that's supposed to be. So let's go ahead and run our code and check that out. It ended up working. So again, when we have a certain criteria or certain syntaxes here, this is going to play a very, very important role in terms of identifying how to structure the print statement correctly. Alright, so let's take a look at this. So we did something along the lines of the first one here, and we have hello world, I am here. So if we did something like this, again, we're going to get an error code, and then when we do a hello world with a escape character with our single quote mark, this will work perfectly. All right, now let's take a look at the Python with the print function part 2 with some additional parameters. Now, what we have here is this. We have initially what we started out with is our print statement with our object. Now, these are basically optional parameters that we are able to also include with printing. You won't be utilizing them all the time, but they're good to know in terms of what happens. Now, generally speaking, the separator and the end are basically their default values, so we don't need to put those in there. In another part of the course, we're going to be learning what the file component is going to be. So if we take a look at this, so again, the separator, right, is an optional component and basically defaults to as a single space. The end is also optional and basically prints a new line. So let's take a look at some code and look at what is involved here. So if we had something along the lines of this particular syntax here, print 1, 2, 3, separator dash, and then end with the stars, and then we have end the line. So we're going to have two pieces lines of code that we're going to take a look at. All right, so let's take a look at our sample code here. So as you can see right now, I have one single print statement, and I don't have the optional parameters here for that. And then I have another print statement that basically identifies end of line. So if we take a look at this, and when we run the code, let's see what the output is. So as you can see, we have 1, 2, and 3, and then end of line. So when we look at the code, so we're printing 1, 2, and 3, and by default the space, space separator is going to be just a single space, and it's not going to do anything. So now if we enter in these components here, so if we take a look at this in greater detail now, so we have print 1, 2, 3. Separator now is going to be a dash, And you know what? Let's save this for last here. Let me get rid of that to show you what happens with the cause and effect of this one here. So let's go ahead and basically run the program now. And you notice that we have 1-2-3. So anywhere where we have basically elements, anywhere where we have the commas here, right, that's going to be basically utilizing that particular separator. So if we end up utilizing something like this, star, 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 and then we run the code again, you notice now we have the stars that are basically replacing the default space. So now let's go back over here and include this. Let's go back and change this to our single dash, and then we have end. So if we take a look at what happens at the end, so we have our syntax, and let's go ahead and run the code and see what happens here. Ooh, so as we can see, something very interesting happens. So we have 1, 2, and 3s utilizing the dashes here. Now, by default, the end is going to be a slash. If I draw it nicely here, this would have been a slash n, which is basically carriage return new line. So we're basically suppressing a new line here and replacing it by the stars. And then you notice that the end of line is on the same line. So those are some of the techniques associated with, again, with the print statement. All right, and then I think that is it. Our next topic that we'll get into is going to be variables. So that's going to be our next video.